start your screen share, that would be great. And everybody, oh, I forgot to bring my bio of Virginia, but you guys read it in the newsletter, but Virginia's the America Honey Princess this year. She's from Texas, and she gets to spend the year going, probably doing Zoom meetings. If it was any year other than COVID, she does a lot of traveling, because always see either the queen or the princess at the Ohio State Fair when I help out at their booth. So Virginia, I'll let you introduce yourself, and welcome to the Maumee Valley Beekeepers and snowy Ohio. It's snowing right now. We're supposed to get 2 to 4 inches of snow.
Oh man, I can't compete with that. It's 50 down in here in Texas.
I think we would all rather have the 50s.
So like Roger said, my name is Virginia Allan, and I am the 2021 American Honey Princess. And my job as a national spokesperson is to travel the entire country from coast to coast, teaching people like you guys about honeybees and how to cook with honey. So today we're going to be focusing on the latter of those, and we're going to be talking about how to cook with honey. We're also going to be talking a little bit about what the Honey Queen program is and what we do throughout the year, but that'll be towards the end of the presentation. So to start with, we are going to do, there you go. We're going to do a quick summary. We're going to be talking a little bit about how honey is made for the new beekeepers, the different flavors of honey, where all the flavors come from, and what honey is comprised of, and how you can use that knowledge to your advantage in the kitchen. So let's talk real quick about honey's characteristics. So what exactly is in honey? So we know that it is a concentrated sugar. So like liquid is, like nectar is about 70 to 80% moisture in it's a sugary liquid that has a very high moisture content. And then the honeybees will dehydrate it down to about an 18 to 20% moisture content. So it's very concentrated. It's a dense liquid, so we're going to be adjusting the liquids in our recipes a little bit. And then it also has about double the amount of calories that sugar does. So on the screen, you can see a scale with some sugar cubes weighing in at about 42, I believe. The screen's blocking it. And then you have, or 48, and then you have the honey, which is weighing in at about 64 calories per tablespoon. So it's just about double what sugar is. So you need to compensate for that in your recipes, knowing that it's going to come out a little sweeter. So how is honey made? Honey is made from the nectar of flowers, and the bees will gather it starting up in the top left of the screen. The bees will gather the nectar and stick it into their honeybees have two different stomachs. They have a regular digestive stomach, just like you and I have. And then they have a honey stomach, which is more like a special pocket that when they put the nectar in it, it adds enzymes to the nectar. And that's what helps to cure and thicken the honey. So then when they take it back to the hive, then you move on to the next square in the top right. Here, the bees are sharing the nectar amongst the other sisters, and that adds more enzymes to it. And as the honey gets rolled back and forth on their proboscis, that's their straw-like tongue, then it will start to dehydrate, and then they can put it into the cell and cap it over, as you can see in the bottom right. This is a wonderful frame. I have rarely gotten a full frame like this. But it is wonderful when it does happen, because then you can take your hot knife and just scrape all those cappings off, and the honey just starts flowing. And then once you harvest your honey, then you have the finished product, as you can see in the bottom left there. So honey comes in a lot of different flavors and colors, and the flavor of the honey depends on where the nectar came from. So say a cranberry honey is going to taste different than orange honey, right? mean, cranberries and orange, they taste different. And we actually have several different varieties of honey throughout the entire United States. We have about 300 in the US and about 3,000 worldwide. That's how many different types of honey there are. That's impressive. So with that many honeys, you can be sure to find one that'll suit your taste buds. So as a good scholar said, it all depends on where the honeybees buzz. That's referring to where the honeybees pollinate. So as the honeybees are out there gathering the nectar, they are actually collecting pollen as well. And the pollen is their protein resource, while the honey is their carbohydrate resource. So comparatively, that'd be your steak and fruits and veggies. So you need both to have a balanced diet and so that you're nice and healthy and you have a wide variety. Same thing with the bees. You want them to have a variety of honey or different flowers to choose from, just so that they can be more healthy overall. So a general rule of thumb that I like to use in the kitchen is if it is a darker honey, it's gonna have a more like a thick molasses kind of flavor, very strong and bold. Those kind of honeys you wanna use more for like a glaze or a marinade, something where you want a very strong, distinct flavor. Whereas the lighter honeys are usually a little bit more mild and a little more delicate on the palate, a little bit something like powdered sugar where it's light and airy, that kind of thing. So the colors of honey can range from very light, almost water white, from like a fireweed, all the way down to a very dark, popular buckwheat honey. And there are many, many flavors of honey in the middle range, but today we're going to be cooking with this, I believe it's a wildflower honey from Indiana. And this one, as you can tell, is like right in the middle where it is a good solid amber color. All right, so then we have, we always get this question of, should we use honey or sugar in our recipes? Honestly, it's up to you. They're both sweeteners, but here's a quick table just to show you the similarities and differences between the two. So they're both carbohydrates, which means that they're both sugar. So it doesn't mean that honey is free. It does still count as sugar going into your diet. So take that into account. Honey is also twice as sweet as sugar, so you're going to be using less of it in your recipes. And it's also a little easier on your wallet because you can make that one jar of honey last longer. You can also see the ways that the fructose and glucose are divided out. A little bit of that has to do with like the different flavors and properties of the honey. Honey is easier on the lower on the glycemic index. So some diabetics have found that it doesn't raise their blood sugar as much. Now that doesn't, again, it's a sugar. So that doesn't mean that you can have as much as you want, but definitely it is easier. So honey will, or sugar will give you a quick spike of sugar intake. And then you're gonna have a release of insulin to help combat that sugar spike. And then that's going to bring you down pretty quick. So honey is easier. So it's a slope, it's a gentler slope as it kicks up, and then it takes you longer because the insulin doesn't produce quite as much as it would with sugar. As we talked about, honey also has more calories, but you're going to be using less of it in your recipes. So honey also has the added benefits of containing water, pollen, minerals, and other things like that. So honey can be used on a lot of different things, including cuts and scrapes. If you get burned in the kitchen by accidentally touching the pan or the oven, you just put a little bit of honey on that and it'll help to take away some of the sting. Plus, if you lick it off, then it tastes good, but I'm not encouraging that right now. So, all right, so what are some key temperatures that we need to know for cooking with honey? So down at the bottom, we have crystallization. I actually have a jar of crystallized honey right here. My sister loves crystallized honey because it has a thick, sharp, almost crystal kind of taste because it's crystallized. So when I turn it on the side, it's almost solid. Like there's no way it's coming out unless I use a spoon. So crystallized honey can be really good to use on a slice of bread or toast where you want it to stay put and you don't want it to slide off like your peanut butter and jelly, or now your honey and jelly. So honey can come in many different flavors and textures, and from flavor and texture, honey can really, really surprise you. So as you can see, it can come in crystallized. You can get it liquid, like we showed over here. And then it can also come in creamed honey, which is basically blenderized and beaten down crystals from the crystallized honey to make a very fine texture. And then you actually have the honeycomb, which is when you take the frame of honey and just chop it up in sections and put that into a bottle. Customers really like comb honey because it's exactly the way that the bees made it. A lot of the time in the world now, we're always wanting to have that assurity of, is our food real and can we count on the people that made it? So if you can, if somebody's having doubt if your product is real or not, maybe you can try giving them a piece of comb honey and that might win them over. You can eat the wax, but often at time I usually just chew on it and then until all the honey's gone, and then I can spit out the wax, or we can sanitize it and use it in wax cappings for candles and things like that. You can also, as you move up the scale, at 110, the enzymes in the honey are destroyed. So honey never goes bad unless it's heated or it has too much water content. So the hive usually keeps its temperature around 80 to 95 degrees all year round. So in the winter, they'll cluster, and in the summer, then they will disperse and create more space in between them just to help keep the hive nice and cool. But if we heat the temperature, if we heat the honey any higher than the hive's temperature, then the beneficial enzymes are destroyed. Once we get up to a 140, again, more degrading of the quality. But on a plus note, once you get up to about 160, that's when you start to caramelize your honey. And then that's when you get the nice brazen kind of color to it. So here you can see a piece of salmon that was cooked with three different ways. So on the far left, you have it cooked with honey. In the middle, it's, in the far left is sugar. In the middle, it's honey. And then on the far right, that's where you have, it's just plain. So honey gives your food a more appetizing color and look to it. And you actually eat with your eyes first before the food even touches your mouth. So it's really important that your food looks good before you taste it. So you can definitely win some points with your family there. So here's a cool slide. If you guys want to screenshot this, it might be handy to refer to back later. And it just shows how to convert your recipes that are using sugar into using honey. This can often be used in like banana breads or chocolate chip cookie recipes and other ones like that. You're going to be using about 1/2 cup of honey to every 2/3. For every 1 cup of sugar, you're going to be using 1/2 to 2/3 cup of honey. Again, it kind of just depends on the way that you make it or the way that your taste buds are. You're going to be reducing the liquid in the recipe by 1/4 cup because honey's liquid. And if there's any eggs in the recipe, if those are the only liquid that you have, add 2 tablespoons of flour. And then you can also add the baking soda down at the bottom there, because honey is acidic and it needs something to help balance it out. Otherwise it can take your recipe in a whole nother direction. So it's all about finding balance in your cooking and in your everyday life. And also, because honey can caramelize faster than sugar, we're going to be reducing the oven temperature by 25 degrees. No matter if it's 400 or 350, anything, just reduce it by 25 degrees. Those are basically your quick rules of thumb on how to cook with honey or convert it. All right, so how do we incorporate the honey into different recipes? Well, for drinks, it's easiest if you can have a little bit of warm water and then mix in your honey to that, because it will dissolve a lot faster. Anytime that you want to end up with a cold drink in your hand, start with a little bit of warm water, and that's going to help to dissolve the honey and help it release some more of the flavors packed inside of it as well. And it's best if you can add a little bit of water, like when you have your honey set in a bowl, pour your water into that until it's nice and thin, like a regular water. So it's more like you're making a thick syrup and then you're slowly diluting it, kind of thing. And that's going to help it to mix a lot easier into your big vat. So for granola, this is easier if you mix all of your liquid ingredients together and then mix all of your solid dry ingredients. So again, with these peanut butter energy balls, these are best if you can thin the liquid by adding your vanilla extract, your peanut butter, and things like that to the honey. And that's going to help the flavor to be a little bit more uniform, as it can mix a little bit better throughout. And then you can add in your dry ingredients and evenly coat it. So for glazes, again, this is in general, again, you can always send me a picture of what you make later. But in general, you want to use a darker honey for your glazes. A past honey queen actually told me a fun recipe she did was she took about a cup of honey, of like really, really dark honey, and then a full 2-liter bottle of Coca-Cola, and then just simmered that down into a nice sauce. And then she used that for chicken. So if you want, that'd be a really cool recipe to try yet. Oh, honey cheese or honey baked brie cheese. So my aunt and I absolutely love cooking, and one of the things that we do every time I go up to her house is she teaches me a new recipe. So this is the recipe that we often make around holidays like Christmas and Easter, things like that, where you just want a nice cheese tray. So if you take a wheel of brie cheese and slice it vertically down the center along so that you end up with 2 circles, then you can add the honey in the middle, sprinkle some almonds in there, and then you close it back up, sprinkle some more honey and almonds, and pop that in the oven, 375 for about 6 to 8 minutes. And that's going to help the cheese to melt, and then once you put it in your mouth, then it'll melt in there too. It's just, the flavors are just amazing together. I was a little skeptical at first as well, but it's amazing. You have to try it. All right. So you guys want to see an actual cooking demo? So this is my family's mugu gai pan. It's a Chinese dish. It's often served with rice or noodles, but if you want to follow along, you can pull up a browser and go to abfnet.org/pages/queens. And we actually have a brochure at the very bottom of our page there that you can click on, download, and share with friends and family. So our brochure looks like this. And then it has about, I think it's 7 different recipes in here. And we're going to be using this bottom one here in the middle. So I also have a slide here with the recipe, and I can show you that as well. All right, so let's get cooking. All right, so I have some things measured out already, but I wanted to show you guys a couple of things that we are going to be doing here. So let's see if we can do this here. Okay, so right here I have some warm water, about 1.5 cups. And then to that, we're going to mix in our chicken bouillon. So again, the chicken bouillon is very similar in the texture of honey, in that it needs to be dissolved first before adding it to another, before adding in any other ingredients. So we're going to add 2 tablespoons of that. And then we can go in for another one. Chicken bouillon is a really easy way to make a beef stock, or no, you don't make beef stock with chicken bouillon. That was a test. Anyway, so you make your chicken bouillon. It's really easy. It's about 1 teaspoon of chicken bouillon to about 8 ounce can of broth. And then we're also going to add in, I'm going to work this backwards here. And then we're also going to add in our honey. All right, so we're going to add in 2 tablespoons of honey. And in order to get all of your honey out of your utensils, you can use cooking pan or anything like that, which I forgot. All right, so we have our wok over here, which is where we're going to be making most of our food. But we're going to measure out 2 tablespoons of cooking oil into this pan right here. So this is, again, going to grease up this utensil so that way we can pour out our honey ahead of time and help it all to slide out. All right, so we're going to get that pan fired up there. And that's going to help the oil to start warming up as we make the sauce here. Okay, so where were we? 2 tablespoons of honey, and we're going to put that right here in the same water for the sauce. Okay. Then we can scrape all of that out. So honeybees, in their entire lifetime, each honeybee will only make about a 1/12 of a teaspoon of honey. That's in her entire lifetime. That's 6 to 8 weeks worth of work, all going down to 1/12 of a teaspoon of honey. So it's really important that we get every last drop of honey and that we try to use it up as much as possible. When my mom and I have a jar of honey that we just finished, we'll usually add some water to it and then make our tea in that jar just to help clean it out before it goes into the dishwasher. All right, that's looking pretty good. All right, so to that, we're gonna add about a third cup of soy sauce, about a 1/4 cup of dry sherry cooking wine, and here it is, cornstarch. So the cornstarch is going to help to thicken it. Just going to be a little here. So this is a half. Pardon me while I count. So we got 1, 2, 3. I was using half tablespoons there, since my tablespoon measuring cup was already dirty. All right, so that is your cornstarch, and that's going to help it to thicken up as we get farther in the recipe once we add the broth and the chicken back to the recipe. All right, so we're going to mix all that up. That's looking really good. Okay. So now we check our pan and it looks like it is nice and ready. So let me see if I can show you guys. So there's this trick. It's a little smoky right now because it's a little hot. So we'll just turn down the flame a little bit. But when your oil kind of has those ridges that just travel across the pan, I'm not sure if you can see them, but that is one indicator that your oil is getting your oil is hot. The other indicator is if you go over to your sink, wet your fingers. I may have put a little too much oil in. Hang with me. Here. Let's put it in a glass bowl. That way, hopefully, it doesn't melt it. Turn off the flame. Safety first. Grab a bigger spatula. Okay. This stuff always happens on live TV, right? All right. That's good. All right. So now our pan is nice and oiled. And turn back on the flame. Probably to a medium kind of high heat. Clearly it's nice and hot. So now we're gonna go look over here at our chicken. So over here, let me see if I can show you here. Okay, so here we have our one chicken breast, and I'm gonna put on a glove real quick, so that way we don't contaminate the cooked chicken from the raw cooked. Oh, my words tonight. But anyway, when you go to slice your chicken, it's easier if you can freeze it ahead of time for like 5-10 minutes, just to get it nice and firm to where it isn't to where it's a little easier to slice. So this has been sitting out for a little bit, but you're going to be just making thin slices, and that's going to help your food to cook faster as well. Another helpful kitchen tip is keep your knives nice and sharp. Not only is it going to make it easier to cut the food, it's also going to keep your fingers safer because the knife is going to go where you want it and not just wherever it wants to go. So that whole path of least resistance thing, right? All right, so that looks good. All right, so our pan is still nice and hot. I'm going to turn you back over this way. Okay, so we're going to just put our chicken in here. Maybe turn it down a little too much. There we go. Cooking is also about the sound as well. So like you do in your bees, you're always listening and smelling just to see what the mood and temperature is of the hive. So you always want to be cognizant of that. Same thing in the kitchen. If a timer is going off, you got to figure out why it is. Just like that, you wanted to make sure that your chicken is going to be cooking fast. So with this technique, you're going to be quickly cooking the chicken so that it can mix easier with all of our other vegetables. Things like mushrooms and green onions are generally a little bit more like delicate kind of vegetables. So they're going to cook very fast, and you don't want to be stirring it a lot when those items are in there because you could bruise it and then it wouldn't look as nice, right? All right, so while that raw meat is in there, we toss that in the trash. All right, so we're going to be cooking this chicken here until it is about thoroughly cooked. And then we're going to be putting it in that pan there. So that way we can keep moving on. So, we have all of these different ingredients, now different colors in this recipe. usually the way, let me bend it up so you don't just see my mouth. So usually the way that my family cooks is we like cut up an ingredient and throw it in. We usually don't get things prepared ahead of time unless it's for, you know, cooking demos like this. So as I was preparing this, I started to realize there's a theme here. Maybe not because of the light, but there's a lot of white and green in this recipe. But if you want to throw other veggies like bell peppers or rice or peas or anything else that you can think of, like that's kind of how a stir fry goes together. First, you take your protein and you cook that. And then you can add your hard veggies like your peas and your water chestnuts. And then you add a little bit softer veggies like your mushrooms and in this case, green onions. So it's all a matter of when you add the food to the recipe, that's going to help your food to come out a little differently. So, all right, so the chicken is just starting to turn a little white. I'm going to flip it a little bit. Some recipes might call this like braising the chicken or something like that. We don't necessarily need it fully cooked, but we want it like most of the way there. That way, when we add in the other veggies, then it will be nice and tender. Come on. There's always one in the pack. There we go. So. So another way you can add honey to your recipe is by adding it into a sauce or in a glaze. My family will usually just put honey on a thigh of a chicken or something like that. That can be really good as well. Let's see here. Almost there. Okay. So as this continues to sweat it out, this is also a really handy pan if you want to make popcorn. Just random commercial break for that. But honey is really important because it has so many different flavors and textures. Honey can transport you to another part of the world. Several years ago, I traveled to Germany, and one of the things we did there was we shared a recipe with them that was traditional American, and then they shared a recipe with us. And one of the things that we made for them was chicken enchiladas, since I'm from the South and it's a little bit more like a Mexican kind of dish. But food brings us together in a lot of different ways. And even though there was a little bit of a language barrier, like we could always come together over food and just communicate over that. Be like, this is how you cook it, and these are the different flavors that we have. If you want to try different types of like Indian or Asian kind of foods, it's really good because then you can have that branch of, oh, that's what that food tastes like, or you can discover new flavors. It doesn't have to be a hamburger every single week or anything. If you break up your routine with new flavors, then it will open your world and broaden your horizons. It's amazing what a good honey or a different type of food can bring you. Also, enjoying dinner with your family gives you a time to help decompress and just talk about the day, things that went well, things that didn't work so well, and what we can learn about it from later. That kind of collaboration is really key and one of the most important points of joining a bee club. So bee clubs are really vital because they can give you information that is area specific. So the way we keep bees down here in Texas is not going to be the same way that you keep bees up in Ohio. So there's a little bit different wintering mechanisms. There's a different way that you might harvest your honey, things like that, because it might crystallize real quick if you have, I believe it's the tallow, if it gets into your, not tallow. I'm missing it. It's like the rapeseed, something like that. Something like that, like canola oil or canola honey, can crystallize in your cells a lot faster than say some of the varieties that we might have down here. So let's check on the kitchen, on the chicken, see how that's going on. All right, that looks really good. So another thing that's really cool about cooking is that if it gets stuck to the bottom of the pan, then you can use the water that the chicken released to help soak off that caramelization there, and then that'll get extra flavor. And that's where you get the colored pieces of chicken. So I'm just scraping off some of that a little bit, so that way the chicken can absorb that moisture back in there. All right. So then we're gonna add it into our bowl here. This is just a holding area while we make the rest of it. Yummy, it smells so good. And that's just chicken and oil, but man, I'm hungry. What do you guys think? All right, so now we're going to reheat our pan a little bit more, and then we're gonna add back in some of that oil. This is a very large burner, so you always need to make sure that your pan is the right size for the burner. Otherwise, the flames, especially on gas stoves, can come up around the sides and maybe catch you or your hands or something else on fire. So always think safety in the kitchen. All right, so we're gonna add in some more oil. Okay, and then we're going to add our water chestnuts. Here I have about an 8-ounce can of sliced water chestnuts. Again, these are our hardest veggies first. And that's just going to give them a little bit more time to cook. Yeah, so we're going to make sure everything's covered nicely in that oil. And that's going to help it to help cook evenly. And I also have around a cup of these peas. I think on the, you might see me deviate every now and then from the recipe on the screen, just because our family makes it a little different. That's another really cool thing about cooking, is that you can make it however you and your family like it. So if you want more chicken, feel free to add more chicken. If you want a different protein altogether, go ahead and swap it. But that's one of the really cool things about cooking, is that there's just many different ways that you can make something. And that's what, it's really funny. So, all right, quick story. So my mom makes a tortilla soup, which is like a tomato base, a little spicy. It's got some chicken, and then you serve it with some like fresh avocado, cheese, and chips on top. So my friend makes it, and she makes it not so spicy, but it's the exact same recipe. So both of us brought tortilla soup to a church potluck one time, and we tasted hers, and we're like, oh, that's really cool. Can I get the recipe? She's like, it's your recipe. But it's just really interesting to see how two people can interpret the same set of words differently. And it's okay. In our family, Chef makes it the way Chef likes it. So that's also really helpful when you are when you're cooking, and it's nice to have that flexibility if you need to swap something out. All right, so give this a nice stir here. All right, so that's going to help to kind of sweat the moisture out of here. Okay. Let me see here. You have to keep going a little bit more. So another thing to keep in mind when you're cooking is, again, with a little bit of the look of the plate, is what do you want it to look like? Do you want it to look all uniform? Do you want it to be like a pile of gumbo? What's the style that you're kind of going for? So here I sliced everything very thinly and in small chunks. That way it cooks faster and then it has a more uniform look. So similar with marketing, you want to have something stand out about your piece, about your dish, about your slides even. So for instance, take the slide you're looking at right now with the recipe on it. So originally this slide was all white text and it was kind of boring, quite honestly. I was having trouble staying interested in it. So then once I started messing around with the colors and started highlighting the main action ingredients or action items on the slide, then you can start to see the segments of the slide, and then you can see the main segments of your dish. Now, on the other part, imagine what it would look like if I alternated every other line as different colors. That would get way, way too big. That would just overwhelm you. You wouldn't be able to understand anything. It would almost be like a slide of completely white text because nothing stands out. So, same thing in your cooking. You want to have accent flavors. You don't want a bunch of flavors just screaming, listen to me, taste me. You want to have a nice, calm kind of setting. And then every now and then, like in music, you just have this high note or this different sound or the triangle a little bit over here. You want to have those different kind of flavors just stand out in your cooking. And those are some of the things that you want to listen to. All right. I love peas. These are sugar snap peas, but we've also used, I believe they're sugar peas. They're a little bit flatter and, excuse me. They're a little bit flatter and are don't have as big of a pea in the pod. But these are the ones that my store have. So again, that's what we're using. So, all right, so let's check this hard stir fry again, or hard veggies. All right, I'm gonna turn down the temperature a little bit to help the pan to cool off a little bit before we add in our delicate veggies. Okay. All right. So we have a pan. Careful. So we have a pan here of your water chestnuts and your snap peas, which are both sliced and cut horizontally. And then we're going to be mixing in, let's start with the onions here. And then you may add a little more oil. But with cooking, you always want to be adding things on the fly and just seeing what your recipe needs. So I usually like to taste a lot in my cooking just to see how the recipe is coming along and just see how those flavors are melding together. Does it need a little more salt? Does it need a different seasoning that the recipe didn't call for? Different things like that. And we also have our mushrooms. And mixing in those. Cooking is a really good way to get kids involved in the kitchen and help to train them on how to give back to the family. Because everyone eats, right? So when you have a kid help you in the kitchen, it can help them feel more responsible and that they contribute to the family. I'm gonna add a little bit of oil here. It's looking a little dry. There we go. Okay. But as a kid, my family my parents would always incorporate us into cooking from the time that we could talk, pretty much. They would set us on the counter and let us taste the different ingredients they were adding, so that way we could learn what the different flavors do. For instance, when you're making like chocolate chip cookies, you're gonna have your sugar and your butter, right? And then you add in your vanilla. Well, vanilla, while it smells great, has a weird flavor when it's by itself. But when you mix vanilla into your chocolate chip cookies, wow, makes a difference. So much of a difference, my family actually puts in twice the amount of vanilla. That's our secret recipe, so don't tell anybody. So that is that. So I think we're gonna have to turn up the heat a little bit more because these mushrooms need to get cooked to where they're nice and flimsy. Oh, mushrooms are a great veggie to have because you can put like a cream cheese beef kind of mixture in them and do stuffed mushrooms. You could even drizzle a little bit of honey over that. But there's a lot of different ways that you can get kids involved in the kitchen and also with bees. Kids love bees. They think they are so cool. In case you haven't been around any kids, let me tell you, because I've done 13 school presentations this year. And anytime I go, people are always interested in beekeeping. They think it's fascinating. So use that to your advantage when you're selling your honey or making connections with people at the store or anywhere. Just know people think that you are a rock star. So you need to help and it sounded a little funny. So you are a rock star and just know that. So people want to know information. So the best things that you can do is brush up on your bee facts. How many legs does a bee have? How many wings? How many stomachs do they have? That kind of information, while it might be second nature to beekeepers, it's not well known among the among the community. Especially facts about how they can get involved with beekeeping or just supporting the industry by planting honeybee and other pollinator-friendly plants. That kind of thing can really help engage people with with the community. Okay. Looking good. All right. So the mushrooms are pretty much done. I kind of like them a little firm, so I'm going to leave them like that. And then you're going to add back in your chicken. We're so close to being done. We're going to add in our chicken here. Mix that around, get it nice and even. And then we're going to stir in our sauce. There we go. Again, you're going to listen for the change in the sound there. There we go. And you're going to pour that all over. And then it's going to make a nice thick sauce as it continues to simmer. Okay. So as that continues to simmer, I'm going to talk a little bit about the different flavors of the honey. So as we already said, we can mix honey with a lot of different things, like sriracha, lime, Coca-Cola, garlic, ginger, cinnamon, things like that. And everything has a different flavor. So it's all a matter of how you incorporate it into your recipes. So in summary, for the cooking with honey, honey is made of different nectars, and the different flavors of the honey is depending on where the honeybees forage from. So a cranberry honey is going to taste different than a orange honey because they come from two different plants and even two different areas. And then they also have different colors and flavors of honey that will range from very dark to very light. And then honey also has many different ingredients such as sugar, antioxidants, vitamins, and it is acidic. So you're going to be adding your baking soda to your recipes to help cut the acidity and help the recipe to maintain status quo, as it were. Honey can be used in almost any recipe that you want. Anything that you already love, you can upgrade it and expand it with honey and change the flavors with the honey. All right, so a little bit about the Honey Queen program here. So this is a picture of me and my friend Jennifer, and she's from Wisconsin, and we will travel the entire United States teaching people about honeybees. So it is a pleasure to be serving with her, and we each have done a lot of work so far. But one of the things about the Honey Queen program is that we have been around since 1959. That is a very long time. So I myself am only 20 years old, but the Honey Queen program has a long lineage of queens that have gone on to help other companies promote and do marketing. But then we also, like through our year, garner a lot of free publicity through media and now through social media, and we're able to reach even more places through virtual presentations like this. So this year's goal is to reach all 50 states, including the territories that the United States owns. So if you know anybody in any other states, or maybe even within Ohio, feel free to reach out to us, and we'll see if we can set up a presentation. We absolutely love teaching people about honeybees. That's why we got into this position. So if you can help us out and find some more events for us to do, that'd be great. We really appreciate it. Some of the presentations that I'm going to teach on are beginning beekeeping, how to cook with honey, how honeybees are used in warfare, both past and present, and also how to plant for honeybees. So any age, any audience. I've done elementary schools, I've done presentations in nursing homes or rehabilitation centers. I've even done one for a stroke group that was looking to learn a little bit more about how honey can help them as they recover from their stroke. So we honestly are here for you. Anywhere that you want to send us, we will be glad to see if we can set something up. So today, as of today, I have gone to 9 different states. You can see them marked by the little green hearts there. Our goal is to reach all 50 states plus the territories by January of 2022. So if you can help us out with that, we'd really appreciate it. So with our media reach, let me stir this here a little bit. Oh, it's already getting thick. That's good. All right, so with our media reach, we can talk to TVs, radios, anywhere, podcasts, or anything like that. We can go and talk about beekeeping or how the community can get involved, things like that. Even within the first 4 months here, I've been able to advertise on the websites, which have gained us about 186,000 website hits per day, giving us about $564 of free publicity. And that's just from websites. So the world is definitely going virtual, and I love doing in-person things. But it's nice to know that those kind of venues and tools at our hands are bringing in so much of our audience. I've been in a couple of different newspapers articles, and we have a video that we put out with the Butterfly Pavilion from Colorado. You can check that out on our Facebook page, which is the American Honey Queen Program at Facebook and also YouTube. And on Facebook, you can see an update as we travel around and as we do more presentations. On the days that we don't travel, we post information about fun facts about honeybees, different ways that you can use cooking in honey. And I've also done 13 different school presentations this year. So all of that is made possible by the support of the American Beekeeping Federation. We are their extension service for the community. So in an average year, we gain about $500,000 of media attention for the honey industry. And with that, 5.7 million people are reached with our educational messages. Again, in an average year, we will travel around the world, travel around the country 340 days on promotional events, whether that be through fairs, garden clubs, schools, anything. Because of COVID, we've had a couple events that we haven't been able to go to, but we are still trying to meet those goals just to help bring more attraction to the honey industry. So what are some ways that you can help support us? You can invite us to your event, just like you did today. You can host us during an in-person event. We need places to stay during our trip. You can also subscribe to our YouTube and Facebook pages. We're at the tag American Honey Queen Program. And you can also partner with us financially. So one of the ways that you can partner financially is by entering into our quilt raffle. Any guesses on what size the quilt is? It's a queen size. So the tickets are only $5 each, and a full sheet of tickets, which is about 4 tickets, is $20. So I'm sure many of you have a $20 bill in your wallet right now. So if you want to invest that into us promoting the industry, you can reach out to Anna Kettlewell. You can see her information down below. Just send her a note with your cash or check and your name, mailing address, and phone number. That way we can write those ticket stubs and we can mail them to you. And then we can also, in addition to investing into that, into our valuable program, you can also become a proud member of, or proud owner of this quilt, which is handmade. Each one is different every single year. You do not have to be present at the convention in January to win. It will be mailed to you if you aren't present. But of course, you could always come to the convention and learn more about bees and see the Kids and Bees event and things like that. That are really meant to help engage people and help them learn more about honeybees. Let's stir this real quick. Oh, that's looking good. I'm gonna bring the camera over here in a minute so you guys can see the finished product too. That is good. All right, I'm just gonna let that cool down. All right. So at this time, do you guys have any questions? I don't know how you guys want to run this, Roger. If people mute themselves or put their questions in the comments, but I'll leave that up to you guys.
There's only about 17 of us, so we might as well just unmute if anybody has any questions. I know Becky was in Michigan and there was jars of milky white honey. She didn't think it was crystallized with a raw honey label on. Would you have any idea what kind of honey comes as milky white?
Not off the top of my head, but I can look it up and get back to you.
Tried looking it up. I wish I took a picture. It was somebody asked if it was whipped. I don't think it was whipped because it actually moved in the jar. It was a little thicker than the regular honey jar next to it.
Was it clear?
It actually moved. It was up north of Petoskey in a little gift shop thing, and they were both by the same family label.
Oh, that'd be really interesting. You might see if you can try to find them online. You can try the honeylocator.com. That's with the National Honey Board. And you can see if you can find their label on there, maybe.
Okay. I was just wondering if there was a new kind of hot product people were buying up. It wasn't anything I wanted to buy.
Not that I know of yet.
I got a question.
Go ahead, Ed.
Virginia, you mentioned that bees were used in warfare. Can you give us an example of that?
Sure. So in ancient days, they would use it. They would put hives on top of the castle walls, and then when an enemy came up and they were trying to crawl up the walls, then they would just push the hive off. Or in an offensive move, then they would put the hives on the catapults and throw them into the city. That way, it would drive people out of it. So that's an example of ancient, but recently trained bees to sniff out different scents using positive reinforcement, the Pavlov's theory, and then they can use that technology, if you want to call it like that, those trained bees in crowded areas, confined in a little kind of cartridge, and then they can walk through a crowd like an airport, a ferry dock, or something like that. So that way they can quickly scan people without maybe having them know that they are being scanned, as is usually apparent with like a sniffer dog or something like that.
Good.
That's pretty awesome.
Any other questions for Virginia? My only thing was when you said it smelled so good, Zoom has to make a feature so we can smell online too while you're cooking.
All right. Well, let me take you over here to the pan, and then I can have you virtually smell it. Oh boy, there goes my set. Okay, so we have our finished product here. And this is our Mugu Gai pan. And again, you can serve this over rice or noodles, anything like that. Maybe it's usually you want to bulk it up with something just so that it has a little bit more sustenance to it. But on top of that, you can also find more information about this recipe and others on honey.com. It has many, many different recipes. You can find us on Facebook and YouTube program. And also check out our website, which is called buzzingacrossamerica.com. And there we post monthly articles that are kids friendly. That way they can learn more about honeybees and get intrigued and feed their interest. We also have honey recipes on there and a couple cool videos of activities that you can do with kids. Again, all trying to get the youngest generation involved in beekeeping and care about the really important insect of honeybees.
Where's the convention this January?
I believe it's in Nevada, Las Vegas, Nevada. And I think they were able to keep the reservation from last year.
Okay. Well, that'll be a long trip for us then.
Right.
Any other questions? Very, very good. I can tell you've done this speech a few times and lots of knowledge there.
Yeah, I've been in beekeeping for about 7 years, and I've been promoting honeybees in honey queen programs from county all the way up to American level now for 4 years. And it's just been a joy to meet new people that are always interested about honeybees. Even the people that are like kind of on the edge, usually you can win them over once you start talking about honey.
Oh yeah. I do the county fair, and we always have the observation hive, and my wife goes, once you start engaging them, you can almost always, they'll buy something before they leave. But
Yeah.
oh yeah, the observation hive is definitely the draw. So
Right. And you can always advertise your honey as you're never going to find this anywhere else.
there you go. Well, if nobody has any other questions, we'll let Virginia go. I have a few things for the Maumee Valley beekeepers, but thank you very much, Virginia. It was very interesting.
Yes, thank you.
We learned a lot about cooking, and good luck with your tour of the country. And hopefully you get to do some traveling this summer.
Will do. We're hoping it'll open up soon, but thank you guys so much for having me out tonight. I really enjoyed sharing my kitchen with you guys.
Thank you, Virginia.
Thank you.
Awesome.
So, all right. I have a few things for the club in general, and so there isn't very many of us. But if anybody's looking to do a trap out, I have 2 trap outs, one in Toledo and one in Wasion. I have one cutout in the Liberty Center Grand Rapids area. Our 48-hour queen cell project that we were talking about in January, we've only got 4 cells sold. So if you're interested in getting some Pharaoh bee stock, a little different than what we have around here, send me an email, text me, do something. Let me know how many you want, but we only have 4 right now, so it's kind of on hold. Swarming season is getting close. I see Jamie dropped off, but Jamie caught a swarm yesterday, and I know another guy's caught 2 or 3. So swarming's getting close. Probably after the snow, some more. Oh, there he's back. But swarm season's going to start. Give your bees room. They need room for the queen to lay eggs. They need room to pack it full of nectar. The nectar is coming in on really strong hives. I was doing splits this weekend, so I had to clean my truck out so I could put splits in. And I should have had some honey supers because I know I have 2 hives that I should have put honey supers on while I was splitting them, because the one hive, I bet, has 40 pounds of nectar in a deep super box. It's a triple deep, and the one triple deep is almost full. Yeah. It was on the bottom. I got rotated 2 weeks ago to the top, and they filled it with nectar. So what triggers swarming is, there's a cause and effect. A lot of times we talk about them backfilling the brood area with nectar. Well, one of the reasons they fill that back area, they fill it with nectar, is so the queen does not have any place to lay. They chase her around. She doesn't lay any eggs. They give her a little exercise so she can fly. It's like flying weight. It's kind of like boxing, get her ready for the fight so she can fly. So, but if you take out some of that nectar and put in empty comb, now the queen can start laying again. So that's how, when you're making nukes, if you do some splits, if you got drawn comb, that is the key, because now it gives them more space to keep laying eggs. If she can keep laying eggs, she won't fly too much. So you keep deterring them that way. But some years we have drawn comb, sometimes you don't. So it's a little tougher. But I got a feeling swarming season will start. We are going to supply Emma, our 4-H recipient, with 2 nukes. And I've put it in 2 newsletters and nobody's replied, but Gail Richardson and I both have medium nukes to sell. So since nobody else has volunteered to sell one, I would like a motion for the club to sell, or to buy, to give to Emma 2 nukes. So if I could get somebody to unmute themselves and to make a motion, since I can't make a motion.
Roger?
Yes, Ed.
Yeah, I make a motion to that, sell them
Okay.
some new.
Ed Albright makes the motion to give Emma 2 nukes. Do I have a second?
I second it. I
Okay.
second it.
Adele seconded, I believe.
I'll do it. I'll third it.
Okay, we got third. All right. All in favor, say aye. Unmute yourselves and say aye.
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 All
Aye.
opposed? All right, motion passed. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Gail and I both have overwinter nukes that we want to get to her.